How long? Would you like me to go through my list of announcements for all the friends and family?
Yeah, but your real friends are here.
Yeah. That's right.
Even though every day, or no, 2 or 3 times a week, you walk
You
past
see
my
me,
office
yeah.
and you say nothing.
I wave.
No, you don't wave.
I wave. And I always feel like it's
I was like, look, nothing again by Holte. Look at that, she's chatting with her
At the
friends.
risk of introducing some decorum into this occasion.
Mostly it's because we value
You're not videoing this, are you?
I'm so glad I caught that whole exchange. These guys right here, these guys were just saying all that. Talking trash. INDS talking trash.
It's because we value coffee over class start time, so then by the time we're walking that way, we go.
Nice.
See, and I feel like family to you, so I don't feel slighted in the least bit.
Would you like to pronounce the name?
Pardon me?
Would you like to pronounce the name?
Ooh.
I've been calling it up for the past 5 minutes.
That's as long as we've known each other.
Sorry, we have completely destabilized. Thank you so much. Just acknowledge to me when she holds up the cards, even just by eye contact, so that she doesn't keep trying to put them in your face.
Okay.
But everything else is good. After your acknowledgements finish, we'll start timing.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Jessica Holte.
Yep, so my name is Jessica Holte, and I am a criminal justice BA here in the INDS department, and a couple of acknowledgements I'd like to make first is to thank Carrie Sauter, my INDS advisor, also my faculty mentors, Sarah Archibald and Cynthia Hody, and my athletic advisor, Abby Day, and Tabassa Majid, my INDS 480 advisor, and the rest of the INDS department for being instrumental in where I am today. So my capstone is on the criminal justice system in child pornography. First, I'd like to start off asking a question. What % do you think instances of child pornographic images and videos have increased since 2007? Any guesses?
25%?
50%.
25, 50? All right. So
150.
150? All right. Going once, going twice? Anyone?
Higher.
So the answer to that question is a 5,000% increase. And this statistic is from 2013, so it can only stand to be what could it possibly be now. And so the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2013 revealed 22 million images and videos of sexually exploitative content. So this statistic in and of itself is why it's so important to research child pornography, especially with how prevalent it's becoming in society. And it's of great concern to both law enforcement and society at large. Our children, our sisters, everyone has a child they know. It's important to research this to better determine it for the future. So the purpose of my capstone was to first highlight the severity of child pornography and to bring light and visibility to it as a crime. And more importantly, to discuss why it is becoming so prevalent and the characteristics that make it difficult for law enforcement to detect and deter it. The goals of my capstone were to analyze investigative studies of child pornography and to use the analysis of those studies to better understand both the criminal and the legal system and how they arrest and try these criminals, and to use the interdisciplinary methods to come to a better understanding and possible solutions to better determine it. Some current issues that surround child pornography in this day and age, one of them is that there's difficulty determining jurisdictional laws and rights. So each jurisdiction has their own definition of child pornography, and a lot of times these definitions don't match up. So what may be a crime in one jurisdiction may not be in another. So when we have crimes that use the internet and technology, what happens in one jurisdiction is also happening in others, and it makes it difficult for jurisdictions to work together to effectively try these criminals. In tandem with that, it's also difficult, detection is also difficult through technology. Depicted here is a simple image of, it's called person-to-person file sharing. It's basically like the cloud. Any computer can upload or download content to a communal network, and simultaneously those files can be downloaded or uploaded from anywhere else. So it's hard to find out where files originate from and how those files pertain to jurisdictions. I use multiple disciplinary perspectives in my capstone, the first of which here is psychology. Psychology was one of the main explanations I used to research and analyze the individual behaviors of criminals and to understand what their motivations were for committing these acts. Some of the theories I used were contemporary trait theory, amygdala abnormalities, and cognitive development theory. Depicted here is the amygdala of the brain. It is a biological structure within the brain. And studies showed that damage to the amygdala can affect behaviors in individuals and can lead to more criminal and violent acts. The second discipline I used was sociology. Sociology, while psychology focused a lot on the individual, sociology I used as an explanation for how society perceives the actions of the individual, and in return, how those perceptions then keep affecting how that individual behaves because of those perceptions. Some of the theories I used were social learning theory, anomie theory, and social strain theory. Social strain theory is the diagram depicted here by Robert K. Merton. It basically states that everybody has cultural goals and institutionalized means in which we go about obtaining those goals, but it's the cross-section of whether or not you accept or reject the cultural goals and accept or reject the institutionalized means in which you go about achieving them. So child pornography would most likely fall under retreatism and rejecting the cultural goal and also going through non-institutionalized means to obtain the cultural goal of committing these acts of child pornography. The last disciplinary perspective I used was political science. Political science was important to me in my research because it helped me understand the legal system and the policies in place when arresting and trying these criminals. Some of the theories I used were rational choice theory, deterrence theory, conflict theory. Depicted here is the concept of rational choice, which states that all criminals weigh the benefits and costs of committing a criminal act, and if they feel the benefits outweigh the costs, then they will commit the act. In my capstone and the scholarship of interdisciplinarity, I used instrumental interdisciplinarity, which is solving a specific problem. That problem of my capstone being the problem of detection and deterrent of child pornography. And using that instrumental interdisciplinarity, I use the specific methods of building complex multi-causal explanations and bridging the explanation-action gap. And so here is a simple visual representation of how I use the aforementioned disciplines and the interdisciplinary methods to complete my capstone. So psychology and sociology were used to form a complex understanding of the motivations of the criminal, and by using that as an explanation, it worked with political science as the action within bridging the explanation-action gap. Political science helps serve as an action for policy change and possible solutions to helping the deterrent of child pornography. Some of these include standardizing the criminal definition throughout jurisdictions so that any act in any jurisdiction will have the same legality meaning, and also to specify the specificity of criminal acts to provide new language to change how the criminal justice system tries, for instance, just having child pornographic images versus actually creating and distributing them. So there's different levels of trying these criminals, and that will help with deterrent. Throughout my capstone, the methodologies I used was the case study analysis. Some of the case studies I analyzed were Operation Cathedral, which was in 1998 between the United States and the United Kingdom. It brought down a child pornography ring called Wonderland, and it was one of the first instances of international jurisdictions working together to solve child pornography. The next one I used was Operation Pacifier. This one is much more recent, 2015, and this one served a more controversial view of how law enforcement deters child pornography. So the FBI took over a file sharing network, and they continued to keep it active so perpetrators of child pornography could continue to use this site. And by having them come to this site, then the FBI was able to obtain the IP addresses and then to arrest and try these criminals. But a lot of the controversy is in whether or not this was moral to continue having these images of child pornography circulate. The last one I talked about was Operation Safeguard, which, while the first two were about like federal government and international borders, this one serves as a more domestic, local example. This is also recent, 2016. It was 20 counties within the state of New Jersey worked together to arrest and try 16 perpetrators, and multiple people within these 16 perpetrators had hundreds of files of child pornography. And it comes back to the internet was used for all of these case studies and how child pornography was distributed. So within the results of my capstone in analyzing these case studies, I found that a lot of the case studies highlighted the positive effects of cross-jurisdictional work, which is very important, and that all of the authors talked about how crucial it was for these jurisdictions to work together, and that was the main way that child pornography would be deterred. What I took from all of these case studies was that it's important to also view the negatives. I thought Operation Pacifier was one of the most important case studies that I read about because it brought to light some of the negative aspects of law enforcement. And it was my hope that by highlighting the negatives to then maybe change so police work can be better in the future. I had some of the related research I read about was studies of perpetrators of child pornography and having interviews with those that are known offenders of child pornography. And by interviewing them, we can learn more about the motivations of child pornography and the criminals that commit these acts. And then also to continue research into victims of child pornography, because a lot of the time we focus on how and why the perpetrators commit these acts, but it's also important to provide support to victims. And in doing so, those victims can then provide support to future victims, and hopefully, the hope is that it dwindles down and down and down. But it's always important to view all aspects of the